we've got two different things going on today. First off, I'm going to talk about how to get downloads in hyper casual games, but also I have something really cool planned for you guys. Something I was hoping to work out. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm at the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco. Now at the top of this hotel is the penthouse suite. And as far as I know, it's the most expensive suite in all of San Francisco. It's 6,000 square feet. This thing is super cool. And I've talked them into somehow letting me actually take a tour of that. And I'm gonna see if I can sneak this camera on and show you guys after that. We'll talk about getting traffic and downloads to your games. I was here to meet Lindsay. Yes. So this is crazy. Rents for $18,000 a day, but mainly businesses rent this by the hour. Absolutely beautiful in here. Kitchen here, everything you need. All right, now we're gonna check out a library. Supposedly, John F. Kennedy would stay here, and Marilyn Monroe. One of those two possibly would sneak in there. Check this out. So that was pretty awesome. Really appreciate the Fairmont. Thank you guys for letting us check that out. Hope you guys enjoyed seeing that. So now let's talk about getting downloads in hyper casual games, because listen, without downloads, you're not gonna be able to build any type of business, right? So let me show you guys specifically what we do. All right, guys, so really there's only 4 viable ways that you can get downloads in your games. That's it, there's 4 different things that you can do. 1, you can get an Apple feature. And listen, that used to work extremely well. It used to be the #1 way to get downloads in your games, but this has changed a little bit. Really, it used to be if you got an Apple feature, you were gonna have a top 100 hit in your game. Pretty much guaranteed top 100, a lot of times top 25. You could expect 100,000 downloads. But those days are kind of gone because the App Store is more competitive now. There's more apps out there, and also Apple has really changed the way that they do features. Right now there's multiple places that you can be featured, many different categories, sections, countries, etc. So it's not quite as powerful as it was in the past. Now the second way that you can get downloads for your games, and this is probably the most talked about of all the different ways out there, you'll see people constantly talking about this, and it's ASO. Now that stands for App Store Optimization. This is like SEO, but in the App Store. So what this means is if you rank #1 for the words free game, then a lot of people are going to be going to the App Store and typing in free game, right? So if you can rank #1 for that, you're going to get a lot of downloads. Now the problem is that also became extremely competitive. As the App Store grew, as it began to be something that was very financially viable for people, after you started hearing about Angry Birds and Doodle Jump and all these games making millions of dollars back in the day, that a lot of people thought this is the new gold mine. They came in and they really took advantage of this ASO. We did it as well. So now you can still get some downloads with ASO. You can easily get, 20, 30,000 downloads, which is not too bad with a game you release. So at this point, you really got to start thinking about what is your goals, right? Are you trying to build a huge company out of this? Are you trying to build something that's going to be substantial and generate hundreds of thousands, if not millions a year? If so, then ASO is going to probably not be a great long-term strategy, right? That's going to be a good short-term strategy. Now, if you just want to create something and get it out there and have fun, and then have this out there in the world, maybe build a small community around it, then ASO is a good strategy, and so is an Apple feature. But we're trying to actually build a real company here, and we have, right? And we didn't get to 60 million downloads with ASO and Apple features. So the two other ways to get traffic and downloads into your apps, I feel like are the most important. And the first one is something that you're probably pretty familiar with, and that's going through publishers. All right, now this is an interesting one because publishers are all going to do things a little bit different. Every publisher is going to have their own unique way of getting downloads to your game. For example, Ketchup, they have over 700 million installs. By now, probably 1 billion installs. So if you get signed with them, you can promote your game to potentially 1 billion people. That's a really big deal, right? Then Voodoo, they're really good at user acquisition, which happens to also be the final traffic source and download source we'll talk about in a second. Now, user acquisition is when someone goes and buys ads to promote their game and can actually do that and be profitable. It's pretty rare. I'll talk more about that in a second. And then you have a lot of other different publishers out there. Chilingo's been around a long time. They're acquired by EA. They have a lot of connections in the industry. And then you have other ones like Absolute and Nanovation, Noodle Cake, and many more. And they all have different strategies, some involving social media, some involving social influencers, and then of course, having connections with the App Store and more to get your game downloaded. Now, we're a big fan of the publisher route. That's actually really all we do because we used to do it all ourselves and it got a little bit frustrating. I want to focus on making games. I love making games. I love coming up with cool, unique ideas, trying to remix gameplay out there, seeing what's working and having fun creating this stuff. I don't want to focus on the marketing. Not with that. I do it with BuildBox and I like that. But with the game development space, I want to create games and let the publishers focus on the downloads, and I focus on making a great game. So we go with the publisher route. It's by far our #1 favorite way to get downloads of our games. Now, if you do want to try to go with the fourth one, which is user acquisition, then be careful. This is something you can spend a lot of money on, and it can be insanely profitable if you know what you're doing. And you really want to focus on retention rate. That's the key word here. Because this is interesting. There's something in the ad space they call arbitrage. This means if you can go buy traffic, you can place an ad, people click on that ad, and you get that traffic, and you turn around and show them more ads, and then actually make money from that. It's really rare, and it's called arbitrage, and it's very few times in the history of advertising that that actually works. I'll give you an example. When Google AdWords came out around 2006, I think, I was able to do this for a little while because traffic was so cheap. We could get traffic from Google AdWords back then for about 1 cent a click on what they called the content network. Now, this is the old age of the internet, right? It's not like that anymore. Now you're gonna spend $1 a click a lot of times. But back then there was a short window where you could buy traffic, send it to a website, and you could literally have ads on that website that made more money than the traffic you spent to get it there. And that was an amazing opportunity, and this rarely happens. Well, in the world of user acquisition in mobile games, I was actually talking to someone at Facebook about this and they brought it up. There's actually an opportunity to do that right now, where you can actually spend money on ads on a hyper-casual game, get people to download your game, and it almost acts as if your game is a holding place for these people, if it has high retention, to see more ads, and then you can effectively arbitrage. So you're buying advertisement, you're getting people to go to the game, and then you're making more money on the actual ads than you paid to get them there. It's a rare opportunity that doesn't happen often, and back in the day it happened with Google AdWords because the traffic was so cheap. Well, now it's not because the traffic's cheap, it's because retention is high, and if you have the right game that has really great retention that people absolutely love, then they're gonna stick around in that game long enough to actually make your ad spend profitable. So it's a pretty rare thing to be able to do. You have to really know the numbers, and it's something I think is really fun. It's worth playing around with, but good publishers already know how to do that themselves. All right, so that's the 4 different ways to get traffic and downloads to your games: Apple features, ASO, publishers, and user acquisition. The first 2, that's kind of the ones you always hear about. They're not the most effective. The last 2 definitely are, and we're a big fan, as you know by now, of publishers. So which publishers should you use? Well, we're gonna talk about that in a later episode. This is Trey Smith. See you later.